They aired the lap times, they showed the tyre choices, but they cut the most revealing part, when Lewis Hamilton said, "The car doesn't give me good feelings." Just 10 words, quiet, almost offhand, but in the paddock, they hit like a warning shot. FP1 in Hungary was supposed to confirm Ferrari's rebound. Instead, Hamilton's radio revealed a man still searching, still uncertain, and perhaps no longer waiting. Riccardo Adami asked, "Do you want to go for another lap?" Lewis replied, "No, the car doesn't give me good feelings." Adami's answer? One word, "Okay." That was it. No follow-up, no suggestion, no data check, just silence. And for Hamilton, silence speaks volumes. This wasn't just a handling issue, it was an emotional fracture, a signal that something deeper remains unresolved. After the Vasseur contract renewal, Ferrari declared stability. But stability without connection is just stagnation. And Hamilton, after decades in F1, knows when a car problem is actually a communication problem. This wasn't telemetry, it was psychology. And the first sign that Budapest might not be the turning point Ferrari promised. Hamilton's words echoed in a place Ferrari doesn't want to revisit, the early Mercedes years. Back then, it started the same. Vague discomfort, short radio replies, and a team scrambling to understand what he was actually asking for. Not setup tweaks, not balance sheets, but emotional confidence in machinery. The engineers at Maranello know this pattern, and some, quietly, are worried. In Spa, the new rear suspension helped Charles fly. But for Lewis, P7 felt like survival, not resurgence. He climbed through the field, yes, but did so saying almost nothing on the radio. That silence, it's not passive, it's surgical. When Hamilton goes quiet mid-race, he's no longer just driving, he's studying, documenting, building a case. That's what makes his Hungary FP1 line so critical. Not the words themselves, but the timing. Right after Vasseur's extension, right before the team's second upgrade phase, Hamilton, instead of celebrating, raises a flag. Not a revolt, not a breakdown, but a red thread of deja vu, like 2016 when the Mercedes steering rack change opened a silent rift. And now, as Budapest heats up, Ferrari might be walking into that same story again. Only this time, Lewis isn't adapting to a winning car. He's trying to rescue a lost one, from the inside out. Inside the Ferrari garage Friday evening, not all voices carried equal weight. Most engineers looked at Hamilton's discomfort and went back to work on damper stiffness, brake migration, or ride height. But one, a trackside performance analyst with a background in behavioral telemetry, said something that froze the room. This isn't a setup issue, it's a trusted issue. The phrase hung in the air like smoke. In Ferrari, where data is king and politics eternal, that kind of language is dangerous. But it made sense. Lewis didn't complain about understeer, he didn't ask for wing adjustments, he simply said the car didn't give him the right feeling. That's not a mechanics problem, that's emotional language. And in F1, emotional signals often come before performance collapses. The analyst pointed out a pattern. Lewis's braking trace was clean, his throttle application, controlled. But in high-speed direction changes, there were milliseconds of hesitation, not in the inputs, but in how early he trusted the rear to rotate. That hesitation isn't visible on the broadcast, but in the data, it's screaming. And when Ferrari quietly reassigned that same analyst to simulator duty for Saturday, insiders started whispering, not about setup, about suppression. Now the question is, what is Ferrari afraid we'll see next? When an engineer speaks out and is moved off trackside duty the next day, two interpretations emerge. One, internal alignment. Two, quiet suppression. In Maranello, they'll call it logistics, reallocation, simulator focus. But those in the know saw something else. An effort to control the message just as Hamilton's discomfort became visible. Because here's the reality, Hamilton's instinctive reactions aren't just feedback. They shape Ferrari's internal decisions. Every lap, every hesitation becomes a referendum on whether the SF25 is evolving fast enough and in the right direction. And when Lewis signals distrust, even subtly, it shakes confidence beyond the garage. Saturday morning, as the simulator data poured in, one phrase emerged again and again from engineers. He's not overdriving, he's underbelieving. That nuance matters. The SF25 might technically respond to changes, but emotionally, it hasn't won Lewis over. And now, every run feels like a battle not just with understeer or traction, but with faith itself. Trust in a system, in a structure, in a car built for someone else's rhythm. Because while Leclerc adapts by attacking early, Hamilton waits for confirmation. And the Ferrari, right now, answers late, or not at all. On the surface, FP2 was clean. Hamilton ran his laps, gave polite feedback, and the Ferrari pit wall marked it as productive. But a closer look at the onboard reveals something the official debrief didn't mention. Lewis switched to brake map 7, a setting rarely used outside of experimental test runs. It happened on lap 10 of his long stint. No warning, no explanation, just a subtle switch mid-corner. Why? Because brake map 7 alters not just brake balance, but the regenerative profile, affecting how the rear responds under trail braking. It's a map designed to shift the car's center of confidence forward, minimizing rear instability. Translated emotionally, it's what Lewis uses when he no longer trusts the rear to follow his inputs. And here's where it gets stranger. Ferrari didn't confirm that map in the post-session data release. It was visible only through onboard overlays for those who knew what to look for. Inside the garage, a few engineers quietly noted, this is the same strategy he used at Mercedes in Baku 2019, when the team refused to soften the rear suspension. So, is Hamilton testing the car or testing the team? Because brake map 7 wasn't just a setting, it was a message. I'll do it my way if you won't listen. While Hamilton ran brake map 7 in silence, Charles Leclerc did something far more subtle, but just as political. In his own FP2 debrief, sources say Leclerc referred to the SF25's balance as finally aligned with my inputs. It sounded routine, professional, but the timing was deliberate. Because in a team where Hamilton's feedback is emotionally coded and politically loaded, Leclerc's clarity becomes a weapon. And make no mistake, Charles knew what Lewis was feeling. The two datasets sit side by side after every session. He saw the hesitation, the brake map change, the lack of verbal flow. So when Leclerc praised the same chassis Hamilton doubted, it wasn't just personal satisfaction. It was a power move, a declaration of fit, of harmony, of trust. Engineers inside the setup group are now quietly split, optimized for Hamilton's adaptive style, or double down on what works for Leclerc. The decision isn't technical anymore, it's philosophical. And one insider, who's worked with both, put it like this. Leclerc wants precision, Hamilton needs intuition. The car can't give both. This is no longer about upgrades, it's about identity. And for Ferrari, that choice defines not just Budapest, but 2026. Every Friday night, Ferrari shares a public-facing technical bulletin with selected media. Tire usage, wind sensitivity, average stint pace. Clean, controlled, carefully worded. But one document wasn't shared this time. The simulator run comparison between the Spa rear suspension baseline and the Budapest spec adaptation. Insiders leaked a portion, and what it shows is telling. In 5 out of 7 simulations run with Hamilton's preferences, including softer rear compliance and gentler torque mapping, the SF25 showed increased corner entry confidence, but a drop in high-speed consistency. That matters, because while the feel improved, the lap time didn't. Now here's the twist. The same sim with Leclerc's input, stiffer rear, aggressive torque curves, improved both feel and time, but only when driven with Charles's timing profile. Translated, the car listens to one driver more than the other, not because of bias, but because of architecture. And that's the core of the silence around Hamilton's discomfort. The simulator doesn't just predict pace, it reveals fit. And in Maranello, they've started whispering a painful truth. Maybe this car just isn't his. But Hamilton didn't come to Ferrari to adapt, he came to reshape. He's not just a voice on the radio. Riccardo Adami has been Leclerc's race engineer, Vettel's before that, and now Hamilton's translator inside Ferrari. But that translation, it's getting harder, because Adami isn't just relaying feedback, he's balancing legacies, decoding emotions, and walking a tightrope between two philosophies. Sources close to the garage say Adami's tone with Hamilton has shifted since Spa. Fewer follow-up questions, shorter acknowledgements, less interpretative support. It's subtle, but Lewis notices. And for a driver who built championship runs on engineers like Peter Bonington, who finished his sentences, that emotional drift hits hard. There's growing talk that Adami may not be Hamilton's long-term engineer, not out of conflict, but incompatibility. Lewis speaks in feelings, Adami speaks in margins, and that disconnect could be the quiet fuse beneath Ferrari's 2025 project, because if Hamilton can't feel the car and can't feel heard, something will break, and not in 2026, sooner. As the paddock turns to qualifying, the real story isn't who's fastest, it's this. Will Ferrari let Hamilton lead, or will it try to fix him? The answer won't come in interviews, it's in the data, and the silence, and maybe in brake map 7.